I know from the research I've conducted with listeners is that assessment centres is certainly one of the areas that people are concerned about. There's a big knowledge gap out there.
Yeah, and I always think assessment centres, it's your place to shine. So that's when I'm talking to people. You've got to think it that way. If you go into the assessment centre with this fear of dread, oh no, it's an assessment centre, then you're not really coming at it from a very positive place. So that's the first thing to do. You've got to look forward to all these chances to shine.
No, definitely. And as you say, you've been shortlisted. Unless the companies think you can do the job, they wouldn't have invited you in the first place.
Absolutely. When I'm working on an assessment centre, all of the people that turn up could conceivably be offered a job, because it's normally for schemes where there's quite a lot of people. So, you're there because we think you can do it and we want the best out of you. So you've just now got to deliver that, really. So
talking at a high level then, so starting at the beginning, what is an assessment centre and why do companies use them?
Many, many years ago, I would always say an assessment centre is not a place, it's an event. And it's still true. It's an assessment centre is your chance, as I said, to shine. And it's where you're not just going to have an interview, but you're going to be able to perform in a number of different ways. So you're going to participate almost always in an interview, almost always in a group exercise. There may be presentations, there may be role plays, there might be psychometric tests to do. So there's a whole range of different things. So it's lots and lots of opportunities. You can't just blow one thing. If one thing and you think afterwards, well, it could have been more, you could have done better. Well, that's fine, because you've got another chance to shine in another exercise.
And what are companies looking for from the candidates at an assessment centre?
Well, we're looking for the best person to do the job. And we're looking against competencies. I don't know of a single assessment centre where you're not being assessed against competencies. So one of the things everybody should do as preparation is declare what competencies are being assessed. I mean, you can guess, but you may get it wrong because different organisations have different focuses. And thinking about the competencies then helps you to think about how you can prepare.
I know there's a wide variety of different assessment centres, but is there always common exercises which candidates will face at each one?
Well, almost always there'll be an interview. Sometimes interviews isn't the best way to gather evidence, but candidates would find it very strange if we just used assessments with never speaking with people. So you will almost always find an interview, you will almost always find a presentation, you will almost always find a group discussion. They're the key things. But there can be some very, very specific things related to a job. I remember working on an assessment centre for one of the telecom companies, and we had people working out how, or demonstrating how they'd respond to angry customers on the phone, which is going to be part of their job. So think about the job that you're applying for, and then any elements of that could be used as part of an assessment centre.
Thinking about the application funnel from the thousands of people that will submit the initial application through to then telephone interviews and aptitude tests and numerical tests, what percentage of people will finally make it through to the assessment centre?
Oh gosh, I don't think I can quite remember that. But I know with some of the assessment centres I'm involved with, in fact one of the major ones, they have literally thousands of applications. And from that, now I'm guessing now, it's based on judgment, but probably only 10% are going to get through to the first stage of the assessment. And that's because an awful lot of people do very, very poor applications. They don't read the instructions, they don't read things properly. I sometimes wonder whether people actually start with a false name just so that they get an idea about what's coming up. I'm not sure, because you often have to give quite a lot of personal information. But some people, I think, they just don't really do a very good application, and they know they're not going to take things forward.
How many people do they tend to be an assessment centre? So if you go along, how many people are you going to be, in effect, competing against?
As a psychologist who's designed literally hundreds of assessment centres, I think six is a really good number to have. But what can often happen is you can have teams of assessors. So, for example, the civil service fast stream, there will be 6 teams of assessors there. So there will be 18 assessors, about 72 candidates, all there on the same day. I think I've got my numbers right. So you could be an assessment centre with masses of people. But in the group that you are part part of, then you're probably going to be in a group of 6 or 12, and that's going to be a more realistic number for most assessment centres.
It's a lot less daunting than 70.
Well, but you wouldn't be working within those 72. You'd be within a subgroup of 6.
And how long do they tend to last now? Is it still half a day or a full day or shorter?
Yeah, I think generally we're looking at a day, and and a key tip is if you've had to travel a long distance, do stay the night before. You can stay in a travel lodge or something cheap. I've interviewed people who've said they've set for a London assessment centre who've set off from, say, Leeds at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, what were you thinking of? And they haven't performed very well. But generally, they're going to take a day. Now, some assessment centres, not one I specifically have worked on, but others I hear about, or at lunchtime, it's a bit like the X Factor or something. Half of them go home, and they just proceed with the ones that have passed the morning session, which seems a bit tough, but I suppose it's what's right for that organisation.